in shortly.
Yep. Bethany, you're up.
Okay, I'm guessing Tony decided not to be part of this, but I did have some questions for him. I guess I'll address them on a later date, but I'll just read this and then I'll give it to Deb for the minutes.
And I'll talk to John Cronin, we brought him up to speed on everything that happened. Being the moderator, he's directly affected by the electioneering and all that. So I've submitted all that and chatted with him about that also.
Okay, so what I'm gonna read today is not about the electioneering, but selectmen and town hall staff. I would like to recommend that the town of Bennington create and implement a social media policy for its employees and elected officials. There are resources available, including a sample policy through the New Hampshire Municipal Association. The public social media post created by Tony Parisi late on Tuesday night, 3/12/24, and left up for approximately 24 hours was inappropriate for a selectman who represents the town and its residents to post. It read as follows: congratulations, Jim Cleary, on your blowout victory as selectman 22 years in running. The town of Bennington has sent a message. Personal agendas, drama, division, and vindictiveness will not fly in our town. Jim cares more about this town and its residents than himself. This board cares and works hard for you and will continue to do so. Jim Cleary, 2027. Throwing out bullshit posts on the community page on election day only hurt you, by the way. Desperation is a stinky cologne. When you come into a meeting and go off your rocker and throw a temper tantrum at the select board, you may get yelled at. Remember, the biggest and best Easter egg hunt is on the 24th at 10 a.m. put together by the selectmen and the best group of town employees and volunteers. 1,000 eggs, see you there. And that was the end of the post. Additionally, it was inappropriate for town hall staff members Deb Davidson and Kathy McGillicuddy to love the post from their personal accounts, and for staff to love the post from the Town of Bennington, New Hampshire municipal page. I hope that this is an isolated incident and that both town leadership and staff change the way they communicate with and use social media in regards to Bennington residents going forward. Signed, Bethany Craig. I would like to add that I was here earlier today and I spoke with both Deb and Kathy. Both of them apologized for reacting to the post at all. And, I've accepted their apology and I appreciated, what they had to say. I did have some follow-up questions for Tony, but I see he's not here, so that's all I have to share.
All right,
Thank you.
And like John said, on the electioneering stuff and all that, his only concern was the page that was, the Bennington, New Hampshire community page, which I know you're the administrator of. One of the administrators adamant on it.
You're talking about Town of
The
Bennington?
town of Bennington.
Okay.
I mean.
You said Bank of New Hampshire, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, town of Bennington. And like I said, it wasn't no big deal if my daughter called me from Manchester, wanted to know what's going on with Bennington Town page. And she was really upset about it. And so on and so forth. But as we well know, people are they're gonna voice certain opinions, and you really can't hold them to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say I had,
But it was during the election, it's like everything stuff that Tony did was after the election. He's done a great job for the town. But and all the other stuff, like I said, I wish we just get together and start working on the concrete stuff and kind of put down the other stuff, because it's not advantageous to the town to do so.
So what you're referring to, Jim, is a post made by another resident
In town, right.
in town, and some people didn't, it was negative towards Jim. It was something a lot of people didn't want, but she's not an elected official, she's just a resident,
Oh, I realize it.
I mean, and I didn't want the post up either, but I didn't have the authority to take it down just because I didn't like it, and it made me look bad. So there's 3 administrators of that page, of that group.
Well, it's just the appearance. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It
And
makes us all look bad.
exactly, and I can't change the way people perceived it, and it certainly didn't make me look good either. So I would have loved for it to never get put up, but
Has it been taken down since then?
she took it down herself, yeah. And I mean, that's what, I
Right.
believe most of Tony's post was referring to her, not me, but I think there were some parts that were referring to me and that were just inappropriate to be posting
Yeah, I can't speak for
publicly.
him, but I don't think it's anything towards you, for sure.
Thank you.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
something I have spoke to some other communities, Antrim and Greenfield in particular, and they don't have town administrators that maintain a Facebook page, and I'd like you guys to think about, let's deactivate the town's Facebook page at some point down the road. Doesn't seem to be effective, and there's another page that looks quite similar to the town's page,
It
where
does.
public posts could be, it's time consuming, and to be honest, not many people look at it.
Well,
or
we
like
already have a
things.
website, right?
We have a website.
Well, I think that's fine.
We can think about it, we've been working towards having more information on there, but it really is not necessary. I know why
No.
I know some people use it, but the information's out there,
Yeah,
people
but-
really want to get it.
We need to think about that.
So that's something I ask that you think about maybe.
Okay. Any other comments? I'm supposed to be here at 6:15, so. All right. We've got this water and sewer.
Sorry, Superman's coming.
Water and sewer commissioners, I see we have one here. It brought to our attention that we're very low on what we charge for water and sewer. And they've got a plan on getting us up to speed with Antrim.
Do you have the little thing?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. And I believe, I was told from Matt Miller, this is a long time ago, that if we don't get the rates the way they're supposed to be when it comes to grants and funding for certain big projects, especially where it comes to the water and sewer, the water treatment plant, within 10 years, that's gonna be replaced. It's $39 million right now, so that today's cost. Town of Bennington's is on the hook for 25% of that. So I'm not 100% sure how that goes, but it sounds like we need to charge appropriately for the water and sewer usage,
Yes.
to be in line for whatever money's out there.
Jim, is there an article in capital reserve funds that are allocated for that purpose?
Yes.
For the sewer plant?
Water and sewer.
Just for the water and sewer, really not towards the plant, not for the replacement of,
So
It's
if
just
you-
for water.
just.
It's not, it does not
That's
include
the
sewer.
Just water? So we're probably gonna have to address it. Put some sort of money in there. Hopefully we'll get some sort of grants and stuff, so it won't be quite, this could be a bond issue. And,
So
It's
would
gonna
it
be
be,
sizable though, it's $8 or $9 million for us.
what would be the downside to establishing a capital reserve fund
There's no
as
down.
opposed to trying to take it all off of the fees?
Yeah, the fees could be, the fees are gonna help, because we start building that up.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not
But
gonna, it's not gonna
okay.
come anywhere near close to what we need.
That's why I'm saying
Right.
a capital reserve fund may be a good idea to offset what comes in on fees that the town as a whole
This was brought to our
contributes.
attention just, it was long after the ship had sailed for getting the warrant articles in, so. It's
Next year.
definitely something we should put in there.
That would have to go on next year's warrant, on next year's
Yes,
vote in
Yes, it
order to
would.
establish a capital reserve.
right.
Right.
So we've
Making a motion to,
I make a motion to accept the Water and Sewer Commissioner's proposal on the increase
I'll second that.
over the next five. What's the time frame on it?
it's 5 years,
Five quarters?
5 quarters.
5 quarters, right?
Mm.
5 years.
So that's only two and a quarter years.
What's it gonna be raised to and from?
It's going up, see, she's got a copy right there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna read it at the end of it.
Oh, do you want my glasses?
No.
Okay. Basically for water, it's gonna go up about, 300% and, sewer is 400.
Percent?
Yeah.
And what
Looking
is it
at, looking
now?
at this right here, it's not that much.
No, it's not, I mean, but that's the
Total in-
numbers. So it'll go from,
2.2%.
0 to 5,000 gallons right now for water is, $20 is the base rate, and it'll go up to 64.01. So the difference is 44.01.
Okay.
And then for 5,000 plus, it will go from, I didn't write that in.
Right.
But it'll go up for,
So,
2.5%.
The increase is not as great as I I anticipated.
So
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
it's
sign
a
in.
20 bucks and
So many people here.
Yes,
Sign
it,
on.
it's basically gonna, it's gonna
And
put us
that-
on level for what it actually costs us, instead of,
Can I get
the
everyone to please sign
taxpayers
in?
having
So we
to
know who's
cover
here.
the difference, like, right
Need a
now.
pen?
So people that don't have water or sewer
Thank you.
are covering for the people that
Oh,
do.
we know that.
Yeah, no, I know, so this is gonna even it out, so that if you have water and sewer, you pay for your own.
I'm good with that.
But additional cap reserve definitely has to be looked at. It's- The more we put in, that's gonna be,
That increment would be implemented over how long of a time period?
The next 5 quarters, so it would,
So it's an immediate increase.
yes, the next quarter is gonna be.
yeah. But
So
it
for
goes up, it'll go up slowly. It's
Well,
not,
that's what I was asking.
yes,
we
it's
got-
gonna,
If it's going up slowly, then it's not going up in one step.
no, it's
Over
gonna go up in
5
5
quarters.
quarters. So the last, time it'll go up is Q3 of 2025.
It's 18 months.
Hey, Mike?
So that's been all approved and accepted. I move to accept, is, you guys seconded it already?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Not good news, but it's something that we have to face, and it's not going away. Mike, come on up.
Pardon me? Come on up.
You-
You can grab that chair if you'd like. How you doing?
Oh.
Good.
How are you?
Good.
I don't think we ever met Jim.
Hi.
Guess you folks have a meeting tomorrow night?
Yes. Our regular board meeting night.
What can you share with, to us to enlighten us on the situation with, the school issue and all that? I mean, it's been voted down, so it's, what's your feeling?
Well, obviously, I'm one out of 13 people
Yeah.
on the board, but, I think with what happened yesterday, no, Saturday, that, you know, I think that's become the main focus of everything. Because, the vote in both Francistown and Dublin now starts a process that, that we're gonna be
Thank you.
very involved in, because, the feasibility study committees, I don't know how much you read about it or know about it, but,
Read some of it.
so, one selectman from every town and one school board member from every town has to be on each of the 2 committees. Well, in 7 out of the 9 towns, there is only one person. So, which means like from Bennington, I'll be attending both of those feasibility
And you
study
need a
committees.
selectman there also.
Yeah.
Bro.
So, I think how each of those, and I see both of those towns sort of looking at what the other one's doing to try to see how that's gonna affect them.
Well, they should, hopefully the school is looking at how the town of Bennington reacted to what they're gonna try to do too with this vote. It was pretty decisive.
Well, I think, I don't know if you read the newspaper article, but Chairman Dunning said, you know, from the very beginning, that we, were looking to see what people in the communities had to say. And that's why we had so many different forums, inviting people to try to explain, what was happening and
Right.
what the
I
steps
just,
would be.
I could never get my head wrapped around it though, because it's such a slight amount of money compared to the budget. And how is that gonna fix anything? You know, that little bit, by shutting down 4 elementary schools, we're only saving 10 or 15 million. Now you would've got my attention. There would have been a significant drop in our tax rate for everybody. But that money's going back to the school, so, and, you know, people weren't educated on it. 75% of the people that I talked to, they thought they're gonna have a reduction in their taxes, which weren't the case.
Well, I think.
So now, once they found out about it, people are, right, they're
Yeah.
very mad about this.
In most of the forums, we tried to express the fact that, number one, if the money didn't go back to the people, what it would do is it would pay for some of the programs that, would be in the budget anyway. So in a way, it was going back to the people because it would offset any tax increases that would be, coming because of the things that needed to be paid for. I think, you know, there was obviously as far as the program itself that was going to occur, I think, you know, what people didn't realize is the fact that a yes vote didn't necessarily mean that 4 schools are going to be shut down. Because what was needed to be done was for the next year and 4 months, a study would be done to look at how all of that would go about, whether it actually could go about, or whether there were problems that would keep it from going about. And so what the vote would have done is allow the school board to then have the ability to say, okay, this doesn't seem like it's gonna work, so maybe these 2 schools weren't gonna be shut down and those 2 schools were gonna be shut down, or whatever. So, I mean, you know, it's not a huge percentage of the budget, but when you look at the amount every year that it's gone up, it is just about the amount that it's had to go up because of all of the things. Last year, we had a huge increase because of electricity and oil. This year, we got hit with a huge increase, as a lot of the towns did, because of the change in healthcare costs that the state program that most of the schools are in was looking at like a 25% increase in healthcare costs. So that's part of what, you know, it wasn't necessarily that the money was just gonna be, okay, you know, here it is, there's this many people, so we're gonna divide that money out and give this much back to every person. But, you know, it would have one way or the other gone back. Because I've only been on the board for a year and a half, but,
It's been quite
almost.
a year and a half.
Yeah. Almost, yeah, the next year should be even more interesting. What's I gonna say? Oh, but, almost every year for the last, I forget how many years, the school board has returned money to all of the towns, the money that was not expended at the end of the year.
For how long has that been?
Pardon me?
How long has that been for, you said?
I'm not sure, as I say, because I've only been on the board a year and a half, but I think almost, I know one year, probably like 3 or 4 years ago, there actually was a default budget. So I don't think at the end of that year, money was, but again, I, you know, don't have those figures.
Right.
I mean, I can get them for you.
I'm just really concerned about the future of the district and what kind of damages this has done. I mean, it seems like it's just premature, you know, for having to go out without having all the facts in place, for all the small towns to be affected, to assess value. People coming here for businesses, young families probably wouldn't want to move in here, things like that. There's really no information on that. Come back at us, what were the ramifications of these towns if they lost it?
I mean, if you read the report that was done.
And I went through it, yeah, it's.
I mean, obviously it's pretty extensive, so I don't think a lot of people got through the whole report. You know, there is a lot of research that they quoted as far as those types of issues. And they did meet with some of the real estate people, you know, who said that wasn't a big issue as far as people were more concerned about how close they were to their job and a couple of other things like that. And was there a good educational facility that they could access, not necessarily just one that was really close to them.
Are you familiar at all with this thing called RSA 194-C, column 8, on weighted voting?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I know other districts have used, especially where we being a small town, you have one school board member, Peterborough has 4. And that pulls into play where, I'm not, like I say, this gentleman here knows more about it. He's talked to us a little bit. He's talked to Deb, hasn't talked to us, but.
I worked for 40 years in the Franklin School District, and I lived in Northfield. And Winnisquam has a school district made up of Tilton, Sanbornton, and Northfield. And
It's used for the smaller towns, basically.
and it's a much different system than we have down here.
Because that may help us, I'm not sure where or when, but it actually takes some of their voting power away if that goes into effect. Because now there are 4 out of 12 votes go to Peterborough. So it's at odds with that when it comes to certain issues.
I mean, I think the board will be looking at some different issues that came out of the study. For instance, one of the big things that we heard at almost every forum was that people were concerned about the time that school started. Because there's been a lot of research that said that high school kids shouldn't be going to school as early as they are.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Chairman Dunning has talked about, you know, we need to look at because of all the research that exists, plus the fact that so many people had expressed concern to the board during either the forums or our board meetings. A couple people had come and talked about that.
And I brought up at that one of the last meetings, it was the last meeting in Hurley Hall there, the Conval. Like I said, the school board and the co-chair of the superintendent showed over here and had all the fancy graphs. And then we had to have the new elementary schools because there would be a big growth explosion. And there was all kinds of, went back and forth and finally built the schools. And I'm just afraid it's gonna go the other way. I mean, I've already got literature from the state. I'm going to a forum on affordable housing. I think I have to look at my phone. But these things are coming out for, there's inadequate housing in the whole state, in the whole country, but this area especially.
Yeah.
So who's to say in 5 to 8 years, there could be a lot more houses in town and all of a sudden numbers at Conval are gonna go up to a point where, you know,
That's projected.
and that's gonna happen. I don't see how we're gonna get away from it. I don't know, but those are my concerns that I brought up. And I mentioned that night, and since then I've already signed up to a conference up there in Concord, so let's see how that goes.
That RSA that you were quoting, was that 194C? Is that what you said?
We got 194C8,
C8?
on the weighted votes. Yeah.
So is the school board that we're talking about here, is this an SAU school board or is this, it's the SAU
It's
school
SAU
board?
school
Thank
board.
you.
And like I said, I don't have my head completely wrapped around this yet, but it's something that may be beneficial to us down the road. Where Peterborough has so much control at this point.
It's an SAU school board that was put together by Articles of Agreement.
Right.
of
Do you
the-
have a regular school district school board also? Do you have 2 separate boards?
No,
It's all
No.
it's all the SAU.
all under the SAU, yeah.
Joe?
Do you know if there's anything on the agenda? Is this the first meeting after the vote?
Yes,
Do you know if there's anything on the agenda to talk about how the board and the district as a whole tries to reunite and pull back together some of the division that occurred in this district. And how we take the, more than 50% of the vote was in opposition to the proposal. Take that and say, we need to do something to try to come up with some other options. So other than the feasibility, the two feasibility studies, is there anything on the agenda that would specifically address the opportunity to review the questions that were raised during those forums that I think a lot of people voted no because they didn't have answers? And secondly, because they were giving up their right to vote on anything in the future. So I think there could have been a significantly different vote if some of those questions were answered.
Yeah.
So I see a real issue that the board has to address, and we as the general public have to address to reunite this district and break up some of that division that occurred as a result of it.
Yes, there's actually two items on the agenda tomorrow night. One is review of the vote, and the second one is review of the feasibility study and what has to be done to go forward. So
But to me-
both those things are on the,
Yeah, but I think there has to be another committee that's established other than the feasibility studies to talk specifically about that, because they had mentioned in a couple of the forums, regardless of the outcome of the vote, there would be a committee that would be formulated to address the future and how we move forward. So, I think that's critically important to try to bring this
I
district
think
together.
that would be part of the discussion about the outcome of the vote. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's several things that have come out of the meetings that we've had in the forums and things, like the time change, busing issues, things like that,
That time change issue was reviewed a number of years ago.
20.
And it was even newer than then, because one of the major issues that came up during that discussion was if you put the high schools start later, your dismissal start ending is later, then you're getting into problems with after-school activities, athletic programs, competitions with other schools that aren't on a different schedule. And it was determined at that point that that was not a good issue.
I think,
just shared it.
I was athletic director for several years, and there are a lot of schools that have changed, and so I think what you see is more of the athletic schedules that are being pushed back some, so that to incorporate the fact that so many schools have such different schedules that are set up. I think the biggest thing, and that's why I think, the suggestion of a committee getting together and looking at these things, and I think the biggest problematic area with that would be the vocational situation, because our students are involved in vocational programs that also have other schools involved in them. We have to watch what our schedule is. Like, for instance, vacations have to sort of line up with, because otherwise, if another school district that's in the same vocational program as we are takes a different vacation week, then that means that the kids are missing 10 days, 5 for one vacation, 5 for the other vacation. So those are types of things that, as we start looking at some of these possibility of changes, we need to get a lot more study done to look at, what the problems might be with those.
Melissa, do you have a question earlier?
No,
Good answer.
he actually answered, yeah.
I got just a quick comment. One part of the problem, Mike, is we've been through the same issue about every 5 years, it seems. That, you know, they wanna close schools and they wanna do this, and we're always in the target here in Bennington. There certainly are two towns in the district that have 2 schools in the town. And if there's really that much room, they could consolidate those schools and maybe save something there. But, other than that, I think that, going to the Articles of Agreement and going to the heart of the Articles of Agreement, the linchpin, which is that every town would have their own, school, going against that is gonna be a loser no matter when you do it, so maybe there's other ways to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the big problems that we face is the fact that, that people say, well, why don't you look at your budget and see areas that you can cut out? Well, the problem is that, I don't know if you saw the list that superintendent came up with, but every year we cut out a slew of things that are really needed because, you know, truthfully, because the state doesn't adequately fund education the way that it needs to fund it.
Exactly.
And that's where
That's where
the bigger problem is, but.
Yeah, but the problem's gonna be, again, if you read in the paper, the same thing happened. Again, I was in Franklin and we were part of the Claremont lawsuit, which happened. And that changed things a little bit for a couple of years, and then the legislature just stopped funding what they were supposed to be funding. And right now, even though the court said, okay, state, you lose, the state's appealed, and, you know, again, the chances of that money changing sooner than later isn't very good. You know, so, you know, that's, and when you add on the fact that, besides the state government, the federal government has never funded special education for anywhere close to what, legally they were supposed to fund it. That the towns have had to pick up
Yeah, the burden.
what everybody else is supposed to be paying and isn't.
Joe?
Could you, the article that came, or the piece that came out in the newspaper that said that there was a change, that I believe it was the district, our district attorney, our school board attorney, had come to the conclusion that because the district had been grandfathered, the issue of the charter schools having priority over the buildings, that was not true.
Yes.
So, but does that, if the town, does that exclude the charter school from outbidding the town? Because if the charter school cannot have first priority, the town goes in and agrees to a number that the district puts on a building, can the charter school then still come in after that and up their bid and take the building away even though they don't have first right of refusal? That might be helpful if we had clarification.
My understanding, and again, in my 1 year here, and with as many legal,
I don't expect you to have the answer.
as
I'm
many
just
legal
raising a
attitudes as we
question.
got, that our articles of agreement actually, there's a federal law that says that states cannot supersede legal agreements that have already been made. Okay, and the articles of agreement, I think part of that is that the towns will have the right of first in properties. Any property that,
That must be in a piece of, that's never been printed.
I haven't read that myself.
So, but that's, the lawyer said that, you know, because of that federal law, that the towns would have the right of first.
Okay, I understand that they, based on his interpretation, that the town would have first option. But I'm questioning whether or not there could be another bid. A second option could come in and bump the chance of the town to buying the building. And I'm asking to see if we can get a
Yeah,
clarification on that point.
I'll look into that for you.
Thanks, because I think that could mislead some folks.
And
Thank you.
I would just like to throw in something about the state funding. You can have a court decision over here or over there, and all of that has to go to the general court, which is the House of Representatives in New Hampshire and the Senate. And if they don't vote for it, it doesn't get funded. Doesn't matter what the court says. I mean, that's really what it comes down. If they don't vote for it, it's not gonna get funded. So that's been some of the problem ever since the first Claremont agreement came up.
John, were you there in 2011,
I came the next year.
the next year? So you weren't there when they changed the way swept was collected?
No.
Okay.
No, but I heard about it.
And, yeah. Do you know what the surplus was at the school last year or the year before last? How much the school had for a surplus in their budget? Or is that what you said you didn't have the answer to?
Not off the top of my head, I can find out for you.
They're telling you.
Yeah.
A follow-up question to that one, if I could, Mike, is at the end of the warrant articles on the school, there was a whole list of things
Yep.
that if there was money left over, we put this much in this account and this much in this account. Could you maybe get some information for us and let us know how much money has actually been put in those accounts over the last few years? Because that's all surplus.
Yeah.
Great.
It sounds like tomorrow night's meeting is something we don't wanna miss.
I'm going.
It'll probably be packed, yeah.
I'm sure we can.
The MS 25 will give you the
Yeah.
surplus.
Starting to get along.
Here's Alan Treadwell's
The
number.
MS 25.
Because the MS 25 is the form that the
knows
schools fill out
comes
to
the
the
weighted
State
vote
Board of
and all this other
Education.
stuff.
State Board of
Very
Education fills out and
educated.
gives to the Department of
He was
Revenue.
instrumental
And that
in
shows how much unexpended funds
Washington.
there were.
Washington.
So that's what comes
Something
back
we don't
as
want to
the credit on the tax rate,
Hillsborough.
when they do the tax rate.
But
That's-
is that done before those other,
It's done after the warrant articles. So if there's still a surplus after all of those warrant articles,
we've got a hell of a
You're-
surplus position.
yeah, so Hillsborough's got, we've been carrying over $1 million surplus on our school budget every year, and then some.
Well, the warrant articles of the Conrail one would add to about 2 million if they're all funded at the end.
So there's your 2 million right there.
I will tell you that a big part of the surplus is the fact that, as we've gone through the year, and we're not the only school district that's running into this, we have a slew of positions that we haven't been able to find anyone for. We've actually, the state actually has a program where you can qualify people under an emergency situation where, like, for instance, let's say we can't get a person certified in math, but somebody who's, you know, a retired accountant decides they wanna come in and help out, teach some math courses. We can qualify them to do that. And we're having to look at talking people coming out of retirement and all kinds of things.
So has anybody ever studied how many of those positions are actually needed to be filled versus how many of them are not? Because one of the things we found at the state level is that with DHHS, they've carried a ton of positions in the labor, because that is the area that you can carry your surplus, because it includes taxes, benefits, insurance, everything. So we looked at it at the state level. This predates me, but they looked at it at the state level and realized that there were a whole bunch of positions in DHHS that were never intended to be filled. They were just placeholders for extra money. And that's what I'm seeing happening in our school budgets, is that they're putting in these extra positions with no intention of filling them. And that's part of where their surplus is coming, and then they're transferring money out of those categories to spend it in other areas. So,
That's
We've
not
actually-
happening in Concord.
No, we actually,
I don't know that, I'm
Well-
not saying that they're doing it, I'm just saying
Well, I will
that
tell
is
you-
what's happening in,
I will tell you that my daughter's a math teacher at the high school, and she has no preparation time at all, even though teachers are supposed to be granted preparation time, because we're 1.5 math teachers short that we cannot fill. And they have, part of the budget this year was, again, to make sure the budget didn't go up any higher than we could get away with. They cut several positions that, for instance, we had because of math scores in different elementary schools, we had a math person that would go teach at the elementary schools and work with the teachers on ways that they could help out kids that were having trouble in math. Well, we had to cut that position because it was either that or cut a classroom teacher, and so.
You know, I sort of agree with what you're saying, because one of the things on the superintendent's list
It's on stage.
was mentioned all the things that have been cut from Congress. Well, I can tell you that when I retired, they never filled my position, and the guy who then assumed my classes, and when he retired, they never filled his position, and so that particular program that they're talking about went away 15 years ago. So it's not something that just happened, because I've been retired for 15 years, I know that. So yeah, so some of those things could be maybe looked into to see if it's even a feasible program anymore, whatever program you're looking at, so.
I don't have anything more. Do anybody else?
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for coming, Mike.
All right,
Thanks an awful lot for coming in. And
Thank you.
We will see you tomorrow night.
Yes, thank you very much, and I've got my list to look up, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay.
Off to meeting number 2.
I saw him next time.
right to my request for EMS.
Oh, yeah.
They're running it.
No, but they live stream them, so I just watch them on YouTube.
This
Sorry.
is,
From my couch.
I guess it's
Good
time.
morning.
Bethany
I hope
wants
you go
coffee.
back and forth. They go off.
Wanted to
Peterborough.
use it on Monday
Change it.
nights from 5:30 to 6:30 or something. I can't remember exactly the time. But it's already been booked, so. Bethany would like a copy of it. And then we have the, they did, testing at Tri-Town on the, wells that is on your property, and they found high levels.
The kids won't notice.
Right, they found high levels of something.
They'll be
that
looking
we
at their
need to do some
phones.
work there, so we
No.
have, this is a quote, but they would like you to sign it from Second Wind, sorry.
That's split between the 3 towns too.
Split between 3 towns to do the bed bottom, and then this is from Eastern Analytical. I wasn't 100% sure what this was for, but they did explain it in great detail.
They test all these
They
wells.
tested it in June of 22, and it was okay, they just retested it, so they need to do, maintenance on the filter. And, one filter has failed, the other one appears to be successful, but, and you see, this is split 3 ways too, but it's a $5,000 quote from Eastern Analytical. We can hold off on signing the quote if you want. but
This
there
is-
is a very detailed
Oh,
explanation.
no, this, I've been dealing with this for a long time, there's nothing we can do about it.
And,
It's kind of
and
interesting.
then this is also for signature, it's, an abatement for Frank Willis.
Mhm.
For, is that for watershed? I think, Frank Willis. I think it was his water bill, he was billed incorrectly. And, I don't know how much you wanna do it once, but, Antrim and Francistown and Bennington were talking, the town administrators were all talking, and we thought it would be helpful to get a meeting together with the selectmen and even maybe the highway guys to go over the tri-town, cause we're also new.
The tri-town agreement, and I think Matt's got the numbers on the excavation, on materials,
Right,
they're pretty close, but we're gonna make sure they're right on, and we'll have those. And we have to reestablish the line between,
talked about that,
between
yeah.
phase one and phase two. And we've already got it, there's already a pin up on the backside, we just gotta run it all the way towards the front. Where the road goes down into the current pit.
Francistown's
That's
pretty
gotta-
much done.
They're getting close, right.
This is it probably this year. But they wanted to get together, selectmen, town administrators,
Basically,
and maybe road agents.
I was part of that back in the late nineties, we drew up this agreement, so once phase one is taken care of, and it's all been depleted from its material, all three towns, Francistown, Antrim, and Bennington, and Antrim and Bennington have 40% of the reserves, and Francistown has 20%. So once that phase one is completed, we'll know for a fact on what town took what materials out, and they're responsible for that reclamation too.
Yeah.
So if Francistown's taking 56% of materials, they owe us that much of the reclamation. It was all done because before it was just,
And the contract's really clear.
yeah, it's simple. Bill Reed and I put it together.
So
back
we
in
wondered if a Monday night, you wanna look at your schedules? Donna said Mondays work for her
The board
select
around.
board,
Mhm.
and Jamie said he would make whatever work,
Sometime in April.
maybe. Oops, Kathy's fine. Maybe the 8th, it's in 2 weeks.
Let's go to the 15th,
Okay, I won't be here, Kathy will be.
okay? Well, let's go a little bit further then,
22nd?
22nd. 15th's tax day, so
Okay,
let's do the 22nd. Who else is rushing it?
and that gives us all, us being Donna, Jamie, and myself, time to,
Like I said, the document speaks for itself. The amount of excavation by the three towns is it's all written out, so we know what's going on in that. What we haven't done yet is run the line between phase one and phase two.
right,
But we do have a pin, I think it's on Danny Trowell's property. It's his furthest pin east, and from that pin, it comes back to where the road goes down in, and somewhere in that area there, so we just gotta
somebody has to walk it.
walk it and flag it out.
Okay. Donna will get her stuff together, I'll
It's
get
decent
mine.
analytical stuff, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's something we've been paying for a long time.
And it's
split
split-
3 ways.
Yeah,
Yep. Where's the signature on this sign
you
right
could
here?
just sign it anywhere. It's a quote.
Tom, can you hand me that one? Can you hand me that one?
Oh.
So
The
it's not
seat.
shipping. Landfill
My
property
turn?
and well. Oh, that's the one on the analytical,
Landfill property and well,
that's
yes.
the analytical stuff.
I'm just here for moral support.
I think we need to go over the
Keys and
the
fobs.
keys and fobs, and just make sure that we've got a list, and who's currently using them, and.
Sorry. we
It's
were
obviously
on
should be
the
access, but we're not here.
schedule.
This thing's huge.
I agree.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Other offices don't.
It's. Oh my lord. You must watch people. Yeah, oh yeah, I wonder where she got that from my wife.
So Dave, I just wanna tell you that I'm recording, so don't say anything you wouldn't want your wife to see.
Reminds me of the good old days when I first started.
Oh, Mr. Pelletier.
Yeah, and I've got all the videos in my garage. He gave it to me before he passed, but this place had 60 people in it every selectmen's meeting.
Yep.
There's 3 cameras going, and 2 or 3 newspaper reporters are here, and it went on for months. All right. Dave, what's up?
You asked for this to come in, so
Well, we're having department heads come in
Nope.
periodically.
that's what we figured, so.
What's the word on the fire truck?
Right now, not much has changed on the fire truck, as in, it's still scheduled for assembly at the factory the end of May.
We haven't seen anything here in the office, on a purchase sale or anything signed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Deb has copies of everything.
Nothing signed. The only thing I have is a blank quote. That's the only thing I have.
That
And I
is-
just got
Yeah,
it from
that's
you.
just for
I'm just a little-
the,
I'm just a
It's
little
from the bank.
I'm just a little concerned because the warrant article that was out last year specifies, I'm not sure where it is now, but it's here somewhere.
Do you have a copy of a contract, a signed contract? I don't have
yeah, I
one.
do.
Oh, I
I'm pretty
asked you for
sure,
it
I have
last
to
week.
just go print it out, but.
No, we haven't signed anything yet. Here.
Cause he didn't, cause it only, the contract that I have only had the fire chief's signature on it.
Yeah, it's gonna be go through us, though, we know what's going on with that, though. It's all expenditures go through us.
And we should have a copy of the contract
Yeah.
for auditing purposes. Remember I
Yeah, that's
asked you?
fine. It's easy enough
I
to
said the
get.
auditors needed a copy for auditing purposes and.
No, and you asked me for those
This is what
documents
you
and I
sent
sent them over to you.
Right. I need a copy of the contract, please, when you get a chance.
I'm just a little concerned because this warrant article specifies the next amount of dollars and time to pay it back and everything else. And we haven't sent any money over to them yet.
No, cause
Nothing's
we
come out.
talked about it, that the down payment wouldn't be made until the truck actually showed up.
So what's the,
Which, like you said, they're talking and it getting delivered to the dealer June, July. Then sometime by the time it gets through the dealer stuff, they mount all the tools and all the other stuff on it. Then it gets to us, they said August, September.
like I said, it's been a long time, so I just
Yeah,
worried about
they
them
told
holding
us
that
straight
price.
out when we originally spec'd it, 500 days.
Gotcha. So they'll honor that price.
And the contract you're gonna give us says that they're gonna honor that price?
Unless there's anything that, they said, unless there's anything that can changes, it's outside their control.
So that doesn't do us any good though, because we gotta go by this. That's all. That's what I'm worried about. It's been so long. And prices, everything's gone up so much.
Yeah, for the most part, there's just the things that, they've locked in for the most part, unless there's supply chain issues, like they can't get the part that they supplied, then they have to upgrade it to the next model up that they can get. So the truck can be manufactured.
Do we have any of that in writing from them?
Yeah, it's all in the contract.
We really need a copy.
We need a
of that.
copy of that, because I don't want to all of a sudden have them come up and say, you owe 720,000 or something, you know, or.
No, I've been trying to keep it
You know?
as close to possible. It's like deleting things to change things out to keep the price down.
Cause if we go over this.
Can't go, the thing is, we can't change that number, that's the thing, that's what the town voted on, so we can't change that number for the fire truck, that's all. I'm just, like I say, I just know how things go, so we just need to see that and go from that.
No,
Cause if it comes in over seven, I mean, there's no way I can sign it, if it comes over 700, you know? Well, I don't know, so we don't have anything at this point on that,
Yeah, I'll get that, but this is what I do have of it, is the basic specifications and all the other stuff on it. That's a picture of the physical truck.
So they haven't said anything to you about anything changing, right, at this point?
No, we're trying to keep the changes all within the number that we have.
What kind of changes are they suggesting?
This option.
Any of the changes would be, is like, if they can't get one part, like the basic pump, they would have to change it to the next model,
Gotcha.
stuff like that. And same thing, it's like if we spec a certain thing and they can't get it, the only thing they have is the next model up, unfortunately. Cause it's even like we tried to delete all the chrome on it to try to get down to black plastic to save as much money as we can.
Is that because the price of the other parts has gone up, so we can't afford the silver anymore, and we have to go with the black to save money?
You know, just trying to keep the cost down.
Okay, so it's because the other parts
Yeah,
are not.
some parts going up, so we're trying to
Okay,
delete parts
alright.
to keep the cost down.
Can we make copies of this?
That's yours.
And they're gonna start building it in May,
They said end of May,
end of May. And when did we order it?
March, right after town meeting last
Right.
year.
Last year?
23rd, yeah.
So shouldn't they have all the parts already ordered due to
No, they
lead times
just,
and stuff?
500 days.
they said 500 days on the contract.
500 days was
By the time,
lead
when we
of building.
signed it, for the time of delivery, it says 500 days.
Right, but I mean, shouldn't they already have all the parts that are going into the truck already
That part I
ordered?
don't know, that's what they do in-house, I don't have access to their,
Well, I
actually-
was just wondering why the parts were changing so, because
some of the
I worked
parts
in
that,
purchasing for a long time at Sylvania, so I know
I
the
think
lead
they
times
just,
you have to
they
order.
have their order queues and when they're building trucks and they know when they're doing, it's no different than, auto manufacturers are doing.
Right, yeah,
They just, when you put your order in for your new car, there's just a queue that it goes through.
okay.
Then by the time it actually gets to that point,
Yeah, let's just, get
What
that
else?
contract, it just says that they, this is the number, so we can, or you don't have anything to look at.
Just this, the original value 679, 862, with the first payment of 420,000, and
then that
then,
get changed to 450
Oh, it did?
original. Because that's even back in the,
so do the payments go down then?
It's in the warrant article,
Yes.
440.
Okay, this is, what I have says, original value 679,
That's what-
862.
yeah, that's why I said that contract wasn't finalized.
Okay, well, that's why we need
Because
to
they
know
won't,
what,
yeah, they won't finalize it until the truck's actually here.
and they need the board to be able to look at it and sign for it. They won't give us the truck until the board that hasn't seen any documentation hasn't signed yet?
What they do.
Here, I wanna sell you a Mercedes,
That's not gonna happen
but
with
you're
us.
not gonna get it.
But no, I clearly stated right back here in the minutes, November 13th, 23, that the down payment would be 450,000, paid from the capital reserve fund.
Okay,
That'll be adjusted to the original price.
Which drops the overall payment down.
down to like,
Then we can
55.
even put more money down, because the problem was, is we didn't know exactly how much the old rescue was gonna go for, so we couldn't actually make the actual down payment number more than what the value of the fund was. Now that we have the rescue in there, we could bump that payment up to 500,000 if we want to, and it changes the overall yearly payment after that.
Can't bump it up to 500,000, cause there's not that much money in the capital reserve.
There is after the transfer of the 67,500 from the sale.
Which trustees of the trust funds has not received any money since Tuesday, obviously. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a quick turnaround, you know?
No, I'm not, it was voted on in
Right.
town meeting.
Right.
I'm not pointing fingers or trying to blame anything on anyone, I'm just, based on the numbers, that's what it should be by the time we go actually have to deal with cut and check in August or September of this year. There should be more than enough time for that money to be moved through the system accordingly.
Well, I'd like to move into non-public session. I want to further this conversation with Dave.